Okay, this is my attempt at modeling the Earth, adding texture maps and other stuff to the surface. So first up, I'm going to switch over to the shading tab at the top here. Now, I can add materials to the background, but the first thing I want to do is to the objects that I'm dealing with. But the first thing I'm going to do is actually add a material to the world. And if we go into the texture settings, we can look at an environment texture, which gives us a background environment. I'm going to link that into the color of the background of this thing so it updates my world. Now I need to find an image, so I'm just going to go open and straight to my desktop, and I have the Earth 2 folder, and I have Tycho and Yale. These are both taken from NASA, and they give us star shots of basically all around the Earth. And that's great, because if we switch to rendered view, we can see, and as we rotate around our little cubie, that it gives us the whole star field in all directions, which is kind of cool. So that's now set up, and I'll talk more about this node setup, but the basic wiring that you need to do is from the added environment texture here, and deciding what environment texture you're using, hook the color up to the color, and then when you select the world settings up here, you'll actually get the background automatically wired into the surface, and this is basically giving you a backdrop of what's going on. Now, in terms of adding the Earth, I'm going to hide the cube for the time being. I'll get back to the cube in a little bit. I'm going to add a UV sphere. Now you can see the surface, the panels here. So what we need to do is make it look smooth, and we just do smooth shading. Hassle is when you get in super close, you can see the straight edges, but we'll see what we can do with it. This object currently has no... Whoops, what on earth happened there? Has no surface details, and if I switch to the object, and I've selected the object, and there's nothing in here. It's worth noting that if there's nothing that appears in this bottom panel, which is your node wrangler, you need to actually go to the materials for your object and give it a new material. Then all this stuff gets added. So that's pretty easy to do. Now I'm going to add in again some image textures. This way I can actually add a surface image. So first up, I'm going to connect the color of this image node into the base color of this object. It goes to black because there's no data there at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll jump back to my desktop and my Earth 2 folder and select an image. Now, if you can't see the images, up the top here, if you look closely, you'll see these four little squares which give you the surface ones. And the one I really want is this detailed world texture or surface image color. And once it's displayed, you can see that there's basically the world. So I'm going to focus in on Asia because there's a mountain range known as the Himalayas that will give us some additional detail that we want. So this is the first part of what I'm dealing with here is adding stuff to the surface of my globe. The second part I need to do is I need to add details to the displacement. Now displacement, and there's other stuff that you can grab and use for this, and other resources out there. Shift D to duplicate, and I'll move that over a little bit so we can hook it all up. And then instead of the world texture, I'm just going to find a new image, and this is going to be my ramp map. So there's two maps here that are going to be useful, the bath and the ramp. The ramp's the first one I'm going to add, and this will add bumps to that surface, and you can see them instantly pop up there as little details. If we zoom right in, you can actually see the individual pixels of the image. So there are limitations. The higher the detail of the image, the more, the less of that artifact you're going to get as the change in pixel color. And if you look at the image here, and I'll just bring it across, they're all black and whites except for that one, the world map. So if I go view extra large, so you can see here clouds are black and white, the bath and the world. And basically it's just that sort of stuff for this. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and then move this over a little more. And I need a second displacement now. I'm going to add the second displacement. The only reason I'm doing this is to show you how to combine multiple displacements together. And you can do the same with multiple images as well. So I'm just going to grab that one and go double click to select image, and that one's now that thing. But it's only got one node to plug into. And this is where, and hopefully I don't forget how to do this again, we have the shader. And we have a mix shader, which should combine two things together to produce more detailed surface, or purple if it doesn't work. That's wonderful. So, looking back in these settings, there has to be another one. It's not mapping. I could use the search function at the top. So, is it a mix? Mix RGB, that's the one. So, what I can do is I can hook the color into the color of that, and the color into the color of that, and then pop that there. And what you'll notice is, should notice, is that the actual ocean, and it's really hard to see on this image because the sun's in the wrong spot. So I might actually just take this and rotate the globe in the Z direction 180 degrees, so I can look at the other side. So you've got the mountains, the Rockies down the US, and then you've got the surface of the Earth, and it looks like it actually goes in. Last time it didn't. Anyhow, so normally the trick is if it's going the wrong way, what you can do is you can apply a maths node in here to basically flip the color. So just by searching for maths, I can get the maths node, I can hook it in there, and all I do is I multiply everything by -1. Multiply, and the value is -1. What it does is it flips those sort of things. So instead of going up, they go down, or instead of going down, they go up. It's really hard to tell with this because of the quality and the image stuff, but that's okay. You get the idea. So, and this is really only just touching on the very surface of what nodes can do. So you can, as you can see here, this is actually a really simple structure. There's a few nodes and things. All I'm really doing is I've got one stream that works out the surface detail over here. So I can grab these two and just drop them a bit out of the way. And then I've got these four that really handle the bumps or the displacement on that surface. Now in this case, the reality is that I don't need the actual depth of the ocean. It actually works a lot better if I've just got the bumps of the surface. And then I need to find a way of adding in clouds. And this is one I haven't exactly worked out yet, but we'll get there. So in the cloud section, I've just added a cloud image to this block here. And I need to wire it in. So it can be mapping the color into the alpha channel so that we get a little bit of fade in and fade out. And that apparently has done nothing. Or we can wire it into, if I could actually see this stuff, my eyes aren't so great anymore, the emissions. So we have reflective components and non-reflective components, and that has worked a treat. So I'll just get rid of that. So here you can see on that surface, there's clouds emitting over the top of the surface. Now, there's other tricks you can do to make it more interesting, but that's all I want out of my little blue globe. So all these images are actually taken originally from NASA and the Blue Marble project, which is really just a way of giving you what you want. And finally, just to throw a render up so you can see what it looks like. Oh, I have a cube. Whoops, I better fix that. So, and this is another part of the settings. I go to my cube, look at the little cross plus, the little box here, and look at the visibility. Don't want it in the viewport, the render, and I'll leave it selectable because I'll get back to that in a sec. So here is my globe. You can see the surface colors and that sort of stuff that are reflecting things. It's not perfect, but it's at least a great start, and it shows you how to get your head around the nodes. The other one, which I'm going to actually show into the renders and then turn off the sphere and turn on the cube, is in the materials for the cube, I'm just going to switch it over so it's material 01, which is what I've used on the planet. And now we get into the Minecraft version of Earth. It's totally glitched out, but you can see roughly what's going on. There's better ways of mapping it out and making it look proper and neat, but I'm not covering that for this. I'm just covering the basics of using the nodes and dropping nodes in there and that sort of stuff. And hopefully this tutorial will actually get you being able to handle simple node setups and that sort of stuff. If you want to go for more information, there's a whole internet out there and people have produced some amazing resources, so I'll leave that up to you to chase down. Alright, thanks.